Christian, tell me a little bit more about, because what is it that you do as a day job, your investment work? What does an investor, because it sounds like there's only a few investors around in the world, and it might seem like quite a difficult thing to understand. What is it that you do as a day job?
So, in many ways, the work I do as an investor is no different. So I'm a private equity investor or VC, venture capital investor. So it's not very different from what traditional VC or private equity investors do. We look for the best opportunities to invest in, and we also look for investors who are willing to put their money at work to support, the innovations that we invest in and trust us in doing the best job, at this. Maybe what is different from traditional VCs that we're not only looking for companies, entrepreneurs, who have an amazing technology and business model, have the execution capability to scale that and make lots of money out of it. We look for that, that's true. But we also look for the ones that bring on the market a technology that can achieve the systemic change that we're looking for and addressing precisely any of the three main threats to the ocean. A solution to overfishing, a solution to pollution, including plastic pollution, and not right now, but at some point, solutions to climate change as well, based on ocean solutions. So that's what we do every day. And of course, we do it by looking for companies, but also thinking strategically about it, looking for partners that we can leverage and to bring all the support we can to those companies. That's what we do.
Great. And so what is it that's kind of, because you could just, I'm sure, be a venture capitalist, investing in anything and making lots of money. And maybe, I'm guessing it might be a more difficult area to be in this than, say, working in blockchain and Bitcoin or something like that. What is it that's personally attracted you to focus on this area?
Yes, it's actually not always easy to answer, this question. So, I mean, the most obvious answer is that, I don't know for those of you who were here yesterday, but I was here and I talked about, the fact that everyone on this planet somehow has a connection with the ocean. And it could be a different one, but I find that everyone has one. And mine is that I'm a free diver. I've always been drawn to the ocean. And when I dive and I go down there, I just feel really connected to it. And so it's just, I feel I have to do something to my part to try and protect it. So that's one reason. And maybe a second reason is that, we heard a lot of talk about, what we're doing is going to work only if it's helps the planet, it helps the ocean, but it also, makes money and it's good business. And it's true. I mean, that's also the way we approach it. That's the way things are going to be sustainable, but not only the solutions we are going to scale, but sometimes I think we need to step back also from the, this framing or this of what we do, and we need to think that actually we have to do it because simply, once you have seen the beauty of the ocean, the beauty of life itself, there's an intrinsically, there's a reason we need to protect it, and it's. I think it's more at a spiritual level, and so we need to get back to that. And so when I have time, I'm not running around, and I try to reconnect to that as well.
Amazing. And so with that, just actually, I'm interested in the free diving. What depths can you go down to, or how long can you do your free dives for?
Like 40 plus meters. That's,
wow.
And depends, the length could be anything between 2 and 4.5 minutes. Yeah.
That's deep as well. Wow, okay, so you must have been doing some practice for that.
You need to practice a bit, and you have to do it safely. So if you want to try it, I really urge you to train properly.
So that's amazing, and I completely agree that it's like I mean, I've been working in sustainability and business for nearly 15 years. And whilst for me the excuse is that business can make money out of it, that it's good for the bottom line, but actually I think it is this spiritual engagement. Business is the excuse, and the avenue is actually it's right for the right thing. But whilst we are in the business thing, what is the kind of the strategy that you're looking to take at the moment around Blue Ocean Partners? About how do you kind of like maximize the impact of your organization?
Yeah, I think this question is so important because the scale of the change is huge. We talk about trillions of dollars we need to invest to build the right infrastructure to address, plastic pollution, just that. And we know we don't have the money. Let's face it. And so one part of the strategy is we need to be extremely efficient in the way we invest the money. So, and again, I go back to that, but that's why we want to invest in innovations, because innovations change the system, change the incentive systems, change the economics. And so therefore, with one innovation, you can have a very large impact. And so I'll just give one example. If you take the issue of plastic microfibers, so 90% of our clothes, contain PET. When we wash them, they shed microfibers, they go into the ocean, they contribute to 8% of plastic pollution. So one way to solve that, and we don't know if it's going to be that one, but that's one we're looking into very closely, is to actually substitute those polyester fibers with another fiber, a biopolymer that is competitive on performance, strength, breakpoint, elongation, but is also competitive on price. Okay, that's one part. And the second part is that it's also marine biodegradable. So then you have a material that's just on economic and technical parameters is more competitive than what we have today. So it will take over the market, the entire market. And then when it goes into the ocean, it actually, it biodegrades. So we've cracked the problem. And so we're talking about an investment, a few million euros to scale the solution that can help address 8% of plastic pollution in the ocean. So that's the type of multiplier effect we're looking for. So of course I've given the simple version. It's easy, sounds amazing. It's not always that easy, but that's the type of leverage that we're looking for. And we need that if we want to crack this problem. So there's another part, and maybe if you allow me.
Yeah.
We talked about systems. So one approach is focusing on innovation. The other part is that, as I say, we don't have enough money. That's because only a tiny fraction of investment money today is going into investments in impact that has a positive impact on the planet. And, I think many of you would agree that, why is that? I mean, we should have 100% of the money going into that. What's the point of investing, in whatever business that is just going to have us consume more of useless products? We should invest in innovations, in whatever products or services that make the planet better and for us. So we should have 100% of our investment going into impact. And so what we're trying to do at Blue Ocean Partners is actually to build a new investment model that will work for the strategy we're setting up, but it also has the potential to scale and become mainstream. So what it is actually, as I say, really traditional investment strategy, but with one tweak. It's that because we care as much about impact as returns, we, at the same level of an investment committee in our governance, we've set up an impact committee that has the same power as the investment committee, that is staffed with independent members who are people who were, like Brad Ack, Vice President, WWF US, in charge of the oceans, François Sima, former director for Global Marine Programs, Fishing and Fisheries at IUCN. So those people coming from the conservation world are in our impact committee. And together, the impact committee has the same power as the investment committee in our investment decisions. So what we're doing is changing the investment model at the very core. We're putting impact at the same level as returns. And so what we're trying to build is a very simple model that changes the way we look at investments, and hopefully that we can scale ourselves, but also that we can replicate and can help make impact investment mainstream.
I mean, that's great to hear, because what it is it's demonstrating another illustration of creativity. That it's not just about coming up with a great chemical way of dealing with existing plastic or creating a different type of plastic that's compostable. It's actually, how do we get the money to those people and make sure that you're focusing in the right way? So that's brilliant. And so one way of creating the system change is through the innovation. But I'd be interested about, how do you think we can encourage, in Extinction Rebellion's case, push governments to kind of create the parameters? That's another way of changing the system, is through government. And obviously you're not a government officer yourself, you're an investor, you're focused on the innovation. But what sort of things would you comment on regarding how governments can help this?
So you're right. So the two main levers to create system change are, we think, one, innovation, and the other one is, let's say, regulation, to put it simply. And governments, of course, have the hand on the lever for regulation. Governments, they will change regulation when they see that the constituents, the voters agree with that, or demand them to change the regulations. They will change the regulation. So it's very important that consumers, civil society, organizations continue to put pressure on governments to put the regulation in place to promote the right solutions. But also they will change the regulations when they see that this is not going to hurt, the economy or the companies. So that's where even innovation itself plays a role, because by making the sustainable solutions or the regenerative solutions economically attractive, then it gives the green light for the government to make the changes.
Yep.
So we also think about this when we approach the problem. So what you see is that just focusing on changes of regulation driven by government, this is possible only if many layers of society actually play their role. So civil society, consumers, NGOs, entrepreneurs, all this is leading to governments being able to change the regulations. And so I think that what that means is that everyone actually in this room can play a role to achieve that, to help.
So tell me more about that. Like that was going to be my next question, actually. Of how can citizens, the people that are in this room, have you got any little things about, as well as obviously picking up things off the beach, what's the sort of things that you were thinking about there?
I think, we've come a long way. Like 4 or 5 years ago, most of us were probably not really fully aware of the extent of the damage of plastic pollution and other, issues like climate change. And so I think the level of awareness is completely unprecedented today. And I think, as Richard Wevers mentioned earlier, now we need to get to the point where we want to act. And so as consumers or ordinary citizens, I'm sure many of you have already tried to get rid of single-use plastic in your life, and I've tried. And the reality is, it's very hard. And I'd say most of us, fail at some point. We succeeded to some extent, but then we fail at some point. So there's a limit to what we can do as just ordinary citizens and consumers. And we should not feel despaired because of that, or give up, because that's only the first step. That means that when you reach that point, you understand, and again, we're going back to that, like to really address the issue, you need to start with yourself. That's what you've been doing. But then you need to change the system. And you can do it because whether you're an investor, you want to create an impact fund, or you want to join us, or you're an asset manager, you want to invest in a company like us, or whether you're an entrepreneur and you want to create a new innovation that will address plastic pollution, or you're in government and you can have an impact on the new regulations, or you're an activist and you create global awareness and movements to push governments and corporates to change the way they operate. You can play a very significant role, but you can do it only if you understand that you, as a person, as an individual, you have a role to play to change the system. And you can do it also if you're an artist. If you are, you can come up with amazing colors that speak directly to your heart like, Richard Weber's did it. And now we're talking with Richard, we think, well, how can you help us convey this message? We're an investor, but we want to work, with people like you who know how to speak to our heart. So there is nowhere you can hide. There is no place you can hide. You can always, play a role. But think about this. The objective is let's change the system.
So yeah, I think that's really inspiring. Thank you, because one of my kind of last questions was going to be is how do we go from this space of kind of passive. Well, it started off with passive denial that there was a problem because we just maybe didn't realize it or we just ignored it. But then things like the blue planet came along, and we've kind of moved more into kind of almost a passive acceptance that, well, I can do my bit by recycling, but I can't really do anything more. So what is it let's go back to the spiritual sort of thing maybe, because you've given the sort of things that people can do. What is it that we can, what could you say about how we could get people feeling as though they can get into radical action? But you can talk about it, the spiritual or another thing. What do you think about that? How do we get people into that radical action, talking to these gathered, beautiful heroes of change?
I'm actually very optimistic that there will be this, collectively we move from this awareness, at the individual level to actually more radical change in our lives. And I think, and I'll tell you the reason is that I see, many people who have such amazing opportunities because, we all have a talent. So they have, X and Y talent, and they choose to what they're going to do with this talent. And I see people, graduating from, let's say, Polytechnique or Central or with degrees in artificial intelligence. And they could put that energy or this talent into, maximizing the number of clicks on the, on the whatever, new handbag that is fancy and you're going to use for 1 year. But no, what we see is that, and we see through all the startups that we're supporting, or they want to join those companies. They want to use their AI skills to, to vastly improve the efficiency of, detecting illegal fishing in marine protected areas, or they want to be able to, use these skills to optimize, the management of in aquaculture farms, and therefore minimize the pollution in the fjords in Norway.
Yeah.
That's we see every day, and we see those people making those choices. And I think I'm hopeful that many of us, and hopefully all of us, will choose to use our talents for that. And this will happen again if we can maintain this connection between, with the true world, between ourselves, that we can talk to each other, not through a phone, but really person to person, eye to eye. And we can take those moments in our really hectic lives to go back, to the sea, to the mountain, to the desert, and just enjoy and, take in the beauty of the planet that was given to us. We need to take that moment. We need to not lose that connection. And yes, there's a risk we could lose that because we're overwhelmed with technology and other stuff. We feel we're connected to social media, which is completely untrue, but we need to keep that connection. If we succeed in doing that, then I'm hopeful. Yeah.
Brilliant, thank you. So I think that's a really good finish, because what it's saying to me is that to crack ocean pollution, it's actually like a personal journey, it's a spiritual journey, it's connecting with our passion for that beautiful world that sustains and cares for us. We are the ecosystem, we're not separate from it. And so we can use that passion to get creative, we can take it as our purpose. And just something as a final little illustration of somebody who did something, which was that in the UK, there's a brand of potato crisps, potato chips, which are called Walkers. And somebody decided that they didn't like the fact that Walkers was using, you couldn't recycle their crisp packets. So what they started to do was put their headquarters address on a crisp packet, on a label, put a stamp on it, and then post it through our Royal Mail system back to the headquarters of Walker's Crisps. And actually, tens, even hundreds of thousands of crisp packets got sent back. But actually, the people that were actually doing it was only a few thousand. And that actually has led to Walkers being forced to create a recycling system for their crisp packets. They were saying, oh, no, it's too difficult, it's not possible. They were finding lots of excuses. And then just a few thousand people, probably, and it started off with just a few dozen people, decided to kind of like, this isn't acceptable. And they made that difference. So one of the things that, just my final note is from my Extinction Rebellion point of view, is that Extinction Rebellion has had some amazing impacts. And people come up to me after either just meeting socially or an event like this, and they say, thank you, Adam, for so much for what you've done. And I turn around and go, I don't want your thanks. I want you to join me. So join Christian or Sophie or Maurizio or any of those brilliant businesses that are here, or create your own and go out there and let's crack ocean plastic pollution together. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam.
Thanks, Christian.